What if the biggest mistake your brain makes isn't misunderstanding the reward, but completely ignoring the probability? Two games of chance. In the first, you can win $10 million, and in the second, $10,000. Which do you play? If you win the first game, it changes your life completely. You can quit your job, tell your boss where to go, and live off the winnings. If you hit the jackpot in the second game, you can take a nice vacation in the Caribbean, but you'll be back at your desk quick enough to see your postcard arrive. The probability of winning is 1 in 100 million in the first game and 1 in 10,000 in the second game. So, which do you choose? Our emotions draw us to the first game, even though the second is 10 times better objectively considered. Therefore, the trend is toward ever larger jackpots, mega millions, mega billions, mega trillions, no matter how small the odds are. In a classic experiment from 1972, participants were divided into two groups. The members of the first group were told that they would receive a small electric shock. In the second group, subjects were told that the risk of this happening was only 50%. The researchers measured physical anxiety, heart rate, nervousness, sweating, etc., shortly before commencing. The result were, well, shocking. There was absolutely no difference. Participants in both groups were equally stressed. Next, the researchers announced a series of reductions in the probability of a shock for the second group, from 50% to 20%, then 10%, then 5%. The result, still no difference. However, when they declared they would increase the strength of the expected current, both groups' anxiety levels rose again by the same degree. This illustrates that we respond to the expected magnitude of an event, the size of the jackpot or the amount of electricity, but not to its likelihood. In other words, we lack an intuitive grasp of probability. The proper term for this is neglect of probability, and it leads to errors in decision-making. We invest in startups because the potential profit makes dollar signs flash before our eyes, but we forget or are too lazy to investigate the slim chances of new businesses actually achieving such growth. Similarly, following extensive media coverage of a plane crash, we cancel flights without really considering the minuscule probability of crashing. Many amateur investors compare their investments solely on the basis of yield. For them, Google shares with a return of 20% must be twice as good as property that returns 10%. That's wrong. It would be a lot smarter to also consider both investments' risks. But then again, we have no natural feel for this, so we often turn a blind eye to it. Back to the experiment with the electric shocks. In Group B, the probability of getting a jolt was further reduced, from 5% to 4% to 3%. Only when the probability reached 0 did Group B respond differently than Group A. To us, 0% risk seems infinitely better than a highly improbable 1% risk. To test this, let's examine two methods of treating drinking water. Suppose a river has two equally large tributaries. One is treated using method A, which reduces the risk of dying from contaminated water from 5% to 2%. The other is treated using method B, which reduces the risk from 1% to 0%. That is, the threat is completely eliminated. So, method A or B? If you think like most people, you will opt for method B, which is silly because with measure A, 3% fewer people die, and with B, just 1% fewer. Method A is 3 times as good. This fallacy is called the zero-risk bias. A classic example of this is the U.S. Food Act of 1958, which prohibits food that contains cancer-causing substances. Instituted to achieve zero risk of cancer, this ban sounds good at first, but it ended up leading to the use of more dangerous but non-carcinogenic food additives. However, it eventually encouraged the use of more dangerous but non-carcinogenic food additives. As Paracelsus pointed out in the 16th century, poisoning is always a matter of dosage.